Hey everybody, this is Ben with another Project Egg interview. Today we're talking to Adam Holland, who currently resides in Phoenix, Arizona. Adam, I want to thank you for jumping on this interview today.
Hey man, it's my pleasure. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So I want to jump right in and ask you the first question, which is, what is your story?
So the quick version of that is I went through engineering school. I went to Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Graduated in 2004 with a bachelor's of science in electrical engineering, and quickly learned that that's not really what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to still deal more with people, not necessarily be stuck in a cubicle all day. And I just knew that there was going to be a better way. I knew I was going to find a better way, and through various winding paths and like the maze of different mentorships that I've had, different business opportunities that I've been involved in or tried out and tested, I eventually got onto the internet and started to do internet marketing. And now I own several ventures online. I've got a digital marketing agency. I've got a lead generation company. We're opening up several e-commerce stores. I already have one e-commerce store going and revenue flowing, and just working on lots of cool little different projects as well. So, intertwined within that. So it's been a crazy ride.
That's awesome. Okay, so we got a lot of meat that we need to pick through here. So, starting with your undergraduate education, you said you were in electrical engineering, I believe?
Yes.
Okay. How do you think that helped you to get where you are today?
Well, it wasn't necessarily the major or even the school. It was the fact that I knew that I didn't want to. I knew what my end goal was. I knew that I didn't want to come out of college with a whole bunch of debt. So the biggest thing that I got out of college wasn't necessarily the learning or the college degree. It was learning what my work ethic was and how far I was willing to push myself, because I actually worked full time while going to school, a very difficult engineering school, full time, and still managed to have a band somewhere in there. Still kept my high school sweetheart. Now we've actually been married for 10 years together, 18 at the time we're recording this. So, if anything, it was just learning how to control my schedule and figure out, how can I get all this stuff done and still enjoy my 20s.
That is incredible, man. And I really want to provide some value on this call, specifically geared towards entrepreneurs, right? So if you were to give some advice on how to manage your time and how to really, set aside the things that don't matter and focus on the things that do, what kind of advice and insight can you give on that?
Well, everybody works a little bit differently. My personal system is I do have a to-do list, and I kind of rank things or star them by what's most important. And what's most important is the revenue generating activities. So I always start there, and then it comes into actually translating that to-do list into an actual schedule. So I use Google Calendar. I'm such a Google Calendar Nazi that literally, like, if I'm going to spend time with my family, it's in my Google Calendar. If I'm doing date night with my wife, it's in the Google Calendar. If I've got a party to go to, or any social event, or if it's work, no matter what it is, if it's not in my Google Calendar, it's not getting done. If it's in my Google Calendar, I basically put so much emphasis on that that it's almost like life or death. Like, this has to get done, or I'm not going to sleep tonight, and that kind of a thing. And it's really more of a willpower thing than anything. And as far as trying to get more done in less time, I've used all sorts of different little tricks and everything. But what's worked for me when I know I have to get something done, or I want to get something done well in advance, and that's kind of one of my unique selling propositions with my agency, is we get stuff done typically a lot faster than a lot of our competition. And it's because we'll simply just set a timer and say, okay, we need to get this done in 20 minutes. And even if it's not done in 20 minutes, we're going to be a lot further along than we were as if we just had an open-ended, like, oh, by the end of today, I'd like to see this done. No, it's like, no. Like, how can we create this almost artificial sense of urgency to get stuff done? So for instance, this morning, I was a little late getting back from the gym, long holiday weekend that we just came off of.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure that I got a bunch of stuff done as my assistant came in this morning. So I worked from probably 9:30 to almost 11, and I blitzed like 4 things on my to-do list as fast as I could, just very, very focused effort. And then, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to enjoy a YouTube video now for 15 minutes, or something. So I still have stuff where maybe I could be more productive, but I'm actually able to sustain a little bit more, have a little bit more, what's what I'm looking for, like persistence throughout my day of getting stuff done, because I'm taking those little breaks in there. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you started off studying electrical engineering at a very tough school. You're working full time. At what point? And I know you said you wanted to. You knew you didn't want to do engineering, but at what point did kind of the entrepreneurial path reveal itself to you? I mean, you said you were good with people, but how did that really translate into entrepreneurship?
So it was through a small series of events, and each one of those, and for many of the people that are listening to this, you might have something similar where you weren't just like introduced like, oh, this is another major that you can choose at college. And it's like, oh, what's this entrepreneurship? But now I've always heard of business owners, and there's even that stigma of like, well, I think all, business owners or, especially rich people, they're just all money, whatever. And we all have these like negative perceptions growing up. I don't want to say all, but many of us have negative perceptions growing up. And literally we're like robbing ourselves of a amazing potential future that we have with that negative self-talk. So that's the first thing. Excuse me. But really what happened was back, I think it was my second year of college, I got involved with Vector Marketing, which is a company that sells Cutco cutlery. So I was literally going to family members, doing a presentation, selling them like a big block of knives and different kitchen utensils and things like that, and eventually started doing like referrals from them, so calling friends of friends and then their friends of friends, and that kind of thing. And I did that for around 6 months. I didn't make a whole heck of a lot of money, but I was just so excited with it because I learned how I could write my own paycheck. And then fast forward a couple years, I'm working in the mall at a Radio Shack, if you remember Radio Shack. Some of them, I guess, are maybe still around. This particular one is not in the mall that I worked at, but I was working in there, and I got approached by a guy that was in a network marketing company. He wanted to show me an opportunity, and I was very hesitant and skeptical at first. And I kind of opened my eyes to the possibilities there, and I ended up being with that company for probably 5 years or so. Again, made some money early on, didn't make a whole lot of money my last several years with the company, but I just knew that I didn't want to stay at a job for 40 or 50 years and maybe not retire. It just made sense to me to be able to write my own paycheck and set my own hours. Basically, I just knew that I knew that I didn't want to be in a job for 40 or 50 years, and I knew that entrepreneurship was basically the solution for that. And the more and more I've learned about entrepreneurship, the more I've learned about it is basically setting up systems, whether it's with technology or with people. Whatever these systems may be, it's to help you kind of basically free up your time so that you can kind of oversee your operations, oversee the grander vision that you have, and move that vision forward as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, for your actual agency, now you said you've kind of been dabbling recently in a few different things. You have your agency, your lead generation deal, and then you're setting up a few e-commerce stores. Could you maybe give a little bit of insight on all the separate things that you're doing and where you got started and how that led to the others?
Yeah, so like I said, back when I got started, I was very much in like the home business opportunity niche, and kind of dabbled in the internet marketing training niche as well, where a lot of the make money online products came from, just because I was really wanting to learn and really dive into everything and really become a student. If you're listening to this and you're thinking like, you know what, I want to be an entrepreneur, it's not something that you dabble in. It's something that you need to understand. Like, this is my career. This is what I'm going to do with my life. So I need to make sure that I put 150%, of my effort towards that. And it's not, oh, I'm just going to necessarily try this or try that. And if it fails, I'll just quit and go back to the job. It's like, no, like, you need to kind of work your way through and figure out not only, what business works in general, what might be better to start off with the current trends, whatever it might be, but it's also whatever fits your personality. And that's something that it took me a while to do, because a lot of the stuff I was doing previous was network marketing or online network marketing, where I was supposed to go out and sell products and build teams and things like that. And between that and the various technical sales jobs I had, because I had an engineering degree, but I did a lot of sales, I did deal a lot more with people, and I did have some sales skills. It wasn't necessarily something that I wanted to do, but then I learned that every single business in the world has marketing and sales. And without marketing and sales, that business ceases to become a business. So for me, when I was starting out, trying all these different opportunities and training programs and different business models, it wasn't necessarily that I was going from failure to failure, even though when you're going through that, you're like, oh man, I tried something else and it didn't work. I was really just trying to find out what suited my skill sets and my personality better than other things that I had tried. And I realized that dealing with huge teams of people and trying to keep people motivated and do a lot of training and a lot of one-on-one mentorship, especially for free in that particular niche, it wasn't gonna pay me what I wanted to make, and it wasn't necessarily something that suited my personality. My personality is, again, engineering degree, a little bit more on the technical side. I have no problem dealing with the numbers or spreadsheets or, especially when I got started, I was broken unemployed. Like, I literally did not have a job when I started into the internet marketing industry. I should say I did it first and I got laid off. So let me correct myself there. So, but that being said, like, I didn't have success until I had gone through a bunch of different training programs, maybe spent money I didn't have or barely had on different mentorship programs or video courses, whatever it might be. And I tried everything from search engine optimization and pay-per-click to pop-up advertising to banner ads and email marketing. I tried to get a taste for everything and all sorts of different business models. And I basically figured out that I love working with people. So I wanted to work as an agency, because previous to that, for several years, I did just straight up affiliate marketing, which is where you sell other people's products and you earn a commission on that. And the problem for me is it was great money. Didn't have to put in a whole heck of a lot of time, but I quickly learned that the dream of working from home quickly fades when you're basically sitting in the same room, like that cubicle I didn't want to go into. Now here I am in my house, sitting in the same room every day, except there is no like camaraderie around employees, and there is no like going out to lunch with friends, or something like that. It's just like, man, I'm home alone. This kind of stunk after a couple months or couple years even of doing that. So I was like, I need to just work one-on-one more with people again, and I started bringing on clients and for the agency and for my lead generation company, and that again, I just suited my business for what I wanted.
And so to dive a little bit more into the agency of lead generation, how do you go about picking clients, and then how do you what's your process for onboarding a new client and developing your lead generation system for them?
You kind of cut out there, Ben. Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah, sorry about that. So again, I really want to provide some value on this call. So kind of from when you first initiate contact with a client until you get them started and the account's kind of working, what steps do you go through to onboard these clients and get them started? Like do you do the PPC? Do you do the email marketing? How exactly do you generate the leads?
Great. So when I first started out, a lot of my initial clients came from people that I knew at events. So people had already training products or with affiliate marketing, and they knew I could run traffic. And like I said before, every business in the world needs some sales and marketing to get customers. Again, it could be e-commerce, it could be I mean, anything. Let's leave that open-ended. So with that, people are like, oh, you can do that for me? Great. And it was easy to get my first set of clients. And then from there, most of my clients, I'd probably say 95% of my clients came through word of mouth, or people that initially knew me through Facebook or through friends of friends, like that kind of thing. So it was basically referral based or through social media. I do some organic Facebook marketing. I do some paid Facebook marketing, and I do email marketing as well for my own business. When it comes to clients, we do Facebook and Google AdWords and SEO and like all sorts of forms of pay-per-click and email marketing and all sorts of remarketing and things like that as well. But for me, going and getting clients, luckily for me, it was all the work that I had done in previous years allowed me to basically put my name out there, and people recognized me, wanted to hire me on for various projects. And then as those projects became successful, that allowed me to get a lot more referrals from those existing clients. And that's the best quality marketing that there is referral based, because not only do they know that you're now doing whatever they need done to their website or their business in terms of marketing, whatever it is, they're actually coming through the means of a testimonial. So it's like pre-done social proof, and they're basically like, whatever this guy's going to charge you, you need to pay it. So it makes life a lot easier, and the closing ratio a lot higher bringing on clients like that.
Absolutely. So, again, I want to gear this towards entrepreneurs, but the specific question, I kind of want to cater to new entrepreneurs, right? So if they're coming into the internet marketing scene and they're just starting to get their feet wet, okay, what advice would you give them as far as what to try? Like, should they try email marketing first? Should they try Facebook marketing first? Should they do social media? Like, where would you point them to start off?
Gotcha. So it goes to what appeals to their personality. Right now, as far as the amount of trainings that are coming out and like what's working now, what's hot right now, a lot of people are jumping into e-commerce. A lot of people are jumping into either Amazon FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon, where you can ship all the goods direct to Amazon, and then Amazon sells them and ships them for you. There's obviously a lot more to it than that. Or Shopify is basically you host your own store and you're now responsible for your own traffic. But either way, it's e-commerce. For other people that are maybe not necessarily wanting to, I don't want to say hide behind their computer like me, if you want to get out there and do a little bit more personal branding kind of stuff, there's plenty of opportunities out there to do affiliate marketing, build out a brand, build out a Facebook fan page or something in a particular niche, grow some traffic and an audience around that, and then sell related products in that particular niche. So again, I mean, there is no one perfect business model. It really depends upon your personality and everything. And I'd say don't necessarily, I mean, I want to say it would be great if it's something that you're passionate about, because you'd figure, okay, well, I'm more interested in this, so I should totally, go in this direction. I see a lot of people saying, turn your passion into profits. That may be true. That may be your dream job, but that may not necessarily be what's going to actually free you from your job and provide the necessary cash flow for you. An example of that is like, if you look at like Waste Management, like that company deals in garbage. I highly doubt that anybody woke up one day and was like, you know what I'm really passionate about? Trash. I'm just going to go and start my own trash business. And it's like, no, it's like you find a need in the marketplace and you fill that need. It's not the passion part of it that should get you excited. It's the profits that should get you excited, because those profits, once you've got a business up and running and systemized, like my lead generation company in the last, year and a half has done around 200,000 leads. That's provided a really decent income for my businesses. And some revenue and some cash flow, that we've been able to put that cash flow into other passion businesses. So like I've got another site called changeyourlifeatwill.com, and that's kind of like it's been a back burner project for years, and I finally said, you know what, I'm gonna make an actual effort and put some content together for this, and built out a website in the personal development niche. So now that's a complete passion project for me, and I had the cash flow to do that. But if I started that out brand spanking new and had to start from scratch with no cash flow, like that project would just be something that stayed on the back burner for 8 years instead of actually getting finished. I think people that are excited about entrepreneurship, you should do it, and you should do it without getting loans and getting yourself in debt. I think that you should be in a job that, hopefully it's something in sales, so it gives you some experience in that, because sales, and whether it be real estate agent or selling information technology or whatever it is, if that's a job that's able to pay you $10,000 a month or more, you should be able to have enough commissions from that job coming in where you're able to put aside some money. Maybe you can put away, $50,000 over the span of a year, by living well below your means, so that maybe you quit that job after a year and now you go and you pursue your passion. You still, have bologna sandwiches for that first year while you're experimenting in your business and such. But, I'm a very firm believer of going after whatever's going to bring you the biggest cash flow first, and then, going into the passion projects and everything. One specific example of that is the lead generation company. Another example of that is an arm of my agency, where I decided, again, there's a huge need and trend in the marketplace for Shopify. I mentioned Shopify before. A lot of people are opening up Shopify stores and selling their own e-commerce products. So I said, okay, well, we can start doing. We already do SEO and pay-per-click. Well, let's just brand it to Shopify. So we started a page on our agency site, adamhollandmarketing.com. And there's a whole page that's dedicated to Shopify services and all the stuff that we can do for your Shopify store. And now we've got a list of like 17,000 leads of people that have Shopify stores that we can go into email and cold call or whatever else and say, hey, are you interested in getting your Shopify store, ranked in Google, or do you want to do some pay-per-click marketing to drive revenue? Here's our pricing structure. Here's what we can do for you. And, let's set an appointment, that kind of a thing. So it's not something where I'm like, ooh, I'm so excited about Shopify. It's like, no, this is a huge need in the marketplace, and we're going to cater our business and drive our business in the direction of where that need is.
Absolutely. And just as a side comment, I think where the passion comes in is for entrepreneurship, is for finding that need in the market and filling it. And I agree with you that, once you have that kind of initial revenue generator, then you can move into things that you're more individually passionate about. But I do think there is something to be said about being passionate for entrepreneurship. But, that aside, I kind of want to touch a little bit more about your past. At what point did you kind of hit that critical mass of revenue to where you said, all right, like this is what's going to support me. This is what I'm going to live off of. And how did you feel when that happened? Like, what were your emotions going through you at that point?
I'm sorry, I think you cut out there again. You said, what were my emotions going through what?
So, what was that critical tipping point in your entrepreneurship journey where you said, all right, I can fully support myself off of this, and this is what I need to be doing? Like, how did you find that thing, like that, your agency, right? How did you know that was the thing that you were going to go for? Like at what point did you start making enough money to where it justified spending all your time doing it?
Gotcha. So basically, I kind of did the reverse thing, and I don't recommend doing this. I kind of discovered internet marketing and kind of went from the offline network marketing kind of stuff into the online network marketing stuff, because I found this 22-year-old punk kid that was just generating tons of leads online for his network marketing business. And I was just like, oh, that's the biggest thing. As soon as I can show this presentation and I can sponsor people, but I need to get more leads, and that's the toughest part. So if this guy can have leads, basically showing up at your doorstep, knocking on your door, asking for information on your company or how to get started in a business with you, I'm like, wow, that's a freaking dream, right? So I started learning from him, and I actually generated about $5,000 in my first 3 months, kind of working with some of his projects and opportunities and training and this and that. And I was like, man, I just made it, a good amount of money. I can see myself investing this into marketing and finally leaving my job. Well, I was so focused on entrepreneurship, I was doing a really terrible job at my occupation. And in February of 2008, they actually beat me to the punch, and they fired me instead of me firing them. So I got laid off from my job, and this was probably the third or fourth job I had had in 4 years out of college, because again, my head was not in the I need to do really well in this job spectrum. It was more of in the spectrum of this job is just temporary, which I spoke, and it obviously came to fruition. It was a very temporary job because I knew I was focused on entrepreneurship. So being laid off in February 2008, I'm just like, well, I'm going to go and try and find a job, which then when the economy had crashed was not an easy thing to do. And I said, well, while I'm looking for a job, I just need to be focusing 100% on my business. And I worked 10, 12, 15-hour days learning about search engine optimization because I didn't have any money for advertising. So I'm like, I can make videos and throw them on YouTube, or, I can make these blogs for free. It's $12 or $10 for a domain name. I'll do that. So for me, it wasn't I have enough money coming in. It was more of this is do or die, and the pain of losing everything and, not having a roof over my head was far greater, a greater motivator than, I want to get a Ferrari, or something like that.
Right.
And for me, that was something that it's been tough for me to get over, because most of my motivation has come from a point of pain rather than, I'm really passionate about this, I can't really do it. Because most of us, when it comes to self-motivation and willpower and discipline, most of us don't necessarily have it, unless it's been ingrained into us from a younger age. And again, it's much easier to get distracted with, Netflix and video games or whatever else. But when it's like, okay, it's do or die, I need to make something happen. It's like, no, I need to stay focused on this and make something happen. So for me, again, it was more of coming from a place of pain or a sense of discomfort, and saying, I have to make this work, and there is no excuse. This is it. It's like there is no other option, and that's really where I kind of made things happen. Now, like I said, I don't suggest anybody walk into their job tomorrow and say, screw this, I'm out, peace, and they go and start working on their business there. I think that you should be able to work on a business where you're not focused on, and I don't want to go off on a huge tangent here, but I see too many people focusing on, let me do content generation, let me write all these blog posts that nobody sees, or let me do all these podcasts that nobody listens to, and let me write a book that nobody's going to read. And it's not anything in terms of the actual audience generation. And many people don't even have any funds or the time or the skill set to generate that audience. I'd much rather people go and get that sales job or work part-time to save up a bunch of money, because you're going to have a lot more momentum if you're able to spend money on advertising than doing what I did, which was SEO back in the day and trying to eventually rank for various terms on Google and that kind of stuff. I'd much rather people go to something that's already kind of like a pre-built system, or a company that's already existed for a while, plug into their again sales organization, where now you're just grinding. You're making the phone calls, you're sending out emails, you're doing presentations, whatever it is, and you're just working the numbers to build up that revenue and getting a cut of it. It's much easier to use somebody that's or a system again, or a company that's got 80% of the work done, and you're just in there grinding and turning your gears as hard as possible in that bigger machine, rather than trying to build that machine from scratch.
So if you could go back and give yourself some advice, knowing what you know now, what would that advice be?
Like I said, you want to focus on cash flow first, especially, if you can focus on any kind of client work or higher ticket activities. Like right now, we've got quotes out there for a couple grand all the way up to $20,000. And most people oh man, $20,000, I'd love to get a $20,000 check. It's well, yeah, there's obviously a lot of work that'll go into that project as well. But that kind of cash flow can, again, fund a lot of your other things. And I think too many people, they go into it with the mindset of, well, if I sell 1,000 of these widgets, I'll make a few grand. And it's well, you got to sell that's, if you're going to sell 1,000, that means tens of thousands will have to visit your website. And people kind of don't think through that math. So, the other second part of that question is, if you're doing client work and you're getting that cash flow to really start to sustain an actual business, I highly, highly recommend building some kind of an asset that you can eventually sell off. I do believe in personal branding. I think there's a lot of value in that. Again, what Gary Vaynerchuk is doing is a phenomenal example of that, where he might be going out there and branding himself and doing all these interviews and podcasts and writing books and speaking and all that stuff. That's great. But the back end of that is a social media company that I think is doing 9 figures a year or something crazy like that, or 8 figures a year, whatever it is. So even if Gary goes away, he's still got that agency that he can go and sell off, or that agency's actually got lots of revenue and it's systemized, where now it's not speaking for the sake of the sake of speaking, or writing a book for the sake of writing a book and making a few thousand or tens of thousands here and there. It's a multi-million-dollar company because he's got a service-based back end to his company. A lot of the stuff that I did my first probably 7 years online was 100% personal branding based. I did make lots of training products, and my stuff was very profitable, but I realized that I was growing an asset that once I took myself out of the picture, that asset was no longer worth anything. And what I'm very much focused in right now, and one of the things, or one of the reasons why we're building up e-commerce stores, is once we get those stores to a certain dollar revenue that we want to get to, I can go and sell those stores off for $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. And that's what I'm really looking forward to, is building up that asset, getting a huge payday, and then being able to reinvest that and just live off of the interest, of those different investments and everything. So definitely, if you're building something, build it first for cash flow, and build something second as a much more long-term asset that you can actually have an exit plan. You can actually go and sell off.
I think that's really good advice. So it seems like you really do have things figured out, and we kind of touched a little bit about your past, but I kind of want to talk about your present, and you mentioned a little bit about it, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it from you. What do you think is the biggest thing that you're focusing on right now in your life?
Loving and living life. I know that's not like the entrepreneurial answer, but I, especially in my first, probably my first 5-6 years building my business, I was grinding and grinding and grinding. And once I got to that point where it's just like, man, like I don't want to like my biggest motivator has been, being able to spend time with my kids. And I go on, all the field trips, I go to all the birthday parties of all their friends and stuff like that. And I spend a lot of time with my kids and my wife and everything. And that's always my main focus, is that. And I don't want to say business is like secondary to everything, because obviously, like if family was 100% everything, like you wouldn't be able to feed or clothe or shelter the family without income. But my biggest motivator is and always has been my family. And for me, growing a business was my way of being able to spend time with my family. And I didn't want to see my kids grow up as pictures on my desk where every single year I just replace the photos over and over and over again. And then one day they're going off to college and I'm like, I don't even know who these people are. Like, are they my kids? They look different. They're looking maybe more like me, or whatever, but I still don't know who they are, what makes the blood go through their veins, what gets them excited, what are they passionate about, and what's their personality, and what have they learned? Have I been a good father? Have I taught them everything they need to go? They need to learn to go, out into the world and everything. And I want to be able to, one day say, you know what, I did a darn fine job. And that job never ends as a parent. That's going to go on until the day I die. But that's mostly what I'm focused on. Especially I got my birthday this week too. So I'm definitely focused on spending time with family and relaxing. Again, going back to the grind. Yes, you have to grind. Yes, you're going to do more hours. I believe there's a saying like entrepreneurs work 80 hours a week so that they don't have to work 40 hours a week. And most people, when they see new entrepreneurs going out and they see how much they have to hustle or grind or whatever term, go into beast mode, whatever term you want to use, they look at that and they say, oh man, is it going to be worth it, man? Like we're all going out to party and you're staying home. Like I remember I had an office space back in upstate New York, in Albany, New York, where I'm originally from, for about 6 months. And I did that because I knew I wanted to stay focused on a project and not get distracted with stuff around the house. Because I believe at the time my wife had a home daycare still, so there was kids screaming and carrying on or whatever, and I wanted pure focus. So not only was I out of pocket to go and spend money on an office that I didn't really need, but it allowed me to focus on that particular project and get it out the door. And I remember one St. Patrick's Day, it was probably a 15-story office complex, and the bottom floor was a pub, a bar. So I was actually walking past the bar, and I looked into the bar, and there was an old coworker of mine from Radio Shack back from college, and I was like, oh no crap, man, you gonna be down here? So I actually brought my stuff, my dinner or whatever I had brought with me, that I was gonna go and eat. up to the office, came back down to the pub. He was still there. I got a chance to catch up with him, and he's been still, from age probably 22 to 32. He was still living the same life and just partying every night, and was still single, living that lifestyle. And I mean, again, that's his choice. I'm not criticizing or judging or whatever. That's his thing. I just knew that I didn't want to have that, and being able to see him, I sensed just how he was just not really happy with his life. I mean, that may have been what he said he wanted, but just telling with his words, his mannerisms, and his overall attitude, he just was not happy with where he was at. And here I was, like, making that choice on a St. Patrick's Day, and I'm super Irish, by the way, and I do love to have a few drinks, but I was making that sacrifice to go and not go out and party that night. I needed to make sure I went back up to the office and finished my work, and it was making lots of those little decisions like that ultimately built me a business where I've made several $1 million now, and I've probably generated somewhere around $15 million for my business as well as my clients over the last 8 or so years, because of decisions like that.
And, I really do think that speaks of your character, that, even though you wanted to go out and party and you wanted to go have fun, you thought, all right, well, my family comes first. I know what I need to do, and I'm just going to do it. And I really do admire you for that. So, we talked a little bit about your past. We talked a little bit about what you're doing now. And with all of your success, I can't help but think that you probably had a little bit of help along the way. So could you point to anybody who you see as a mentor to you on your journey?
Yeah, and I've had several over the years, and mentor, I don't want to say I've ever had a very, very close mentorship, but one of the things that I learned is everything is a learning experience. So if I have name names, some of the initial people that taught me how to do internet marketing are guys like Jonathan Budd, who's that young punk kid who's like still in his parents' office or whatever, doing his first videos online, and he went over to generate 8 figures online, and he has a very large flourishing company right now as well. Another friend of mine whom actually I live only about 20 minutes from now is Mark Hoverson. Mark's a great guy, lots of wisdom. Trainer Luke Jayton, Fernie Ceballos and Raymond Fong were 2 guys that were kind of in SEO, and I learned a lot of my initial SEO stuff from them. So I definitely consider them as mentors. And I want people to realize, like, yes, you should have a mentor, you should have a coach and somebody directing you. And maybe as I'm listening to myself now, like, man, maybe I need to go and hire another coach,
right,
after this phone call. But like, I always, like, books are my mentors. Previous jobs were my mentors, because I always thought back to, like, every single thing is a learning experience. And like I said, I went through lots of different jobs. At one time, I was actually working 3 jobs at once, trying to build up enough money so I can go out there and then pay off some debts and have some money to market my businesses or whatever it was. And this is well before I even got online. I was doing newspapers at like 4:30 in the morning. I worked a full-time job during the day, and then at night I worked in a call center for a large cable company, like helping people as they wanted to pay their bills or call in for, like, to order a pay-per-view, whatever. I was on the other line. So that job hadn't been outsourced to, like, India yet. So I was still doing that. Wow. So I was, working, 16-hour days. Literally, like, I'd go home, get home at like 10:30 at night, and I'd have to wake up at 4:30 the next morning, and that lasted only a couple weeks before I was literally, like, passing out during the jobs, and I ended up quitting the newspapers for lots of other reasons and stuff. But the long and short of it is every single thing was an experience. When I worked for the cable company, I learned how they organized things, how they kind of micromanage people, how they gave raises based upon certain criteria, how they disciplined the employees if they did something wrong. I like, just by being more aware of the things going on around me, it allowed me to learn so much. And I feel that so many people, they just kind of coast through, and things happen to them, and they're not realizing that, no, this stuff isn't happening to you. This stuff is going on around you, and it's really how you choose to react to those things going around you that shapes your life. And instead of me saying, oh man, this thing affected me at this job, it was like, oh, that was a learning experience. Not only do I need to do this different, I learned that maybe the company could do something a little bit different to make it better, or maybe the other employees could do something better to help out the company more, or whatever it was. And again, no matter what job I was in, if I had that kind of a stance and realized that I could have a learning experience out of it, it was going to be a positive experience. Even if it was a negative experience, something happening to me, I always try to look for that silver lining.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that kind of brings me to my next point, of learning from the challenges. I want to talk about failure, because I think a lot of people view failure in a negative way, but I actually think that failure is necessary to success. What are your thoughts on failure, and how do you overcome it?
It's a requirement, and so many people get wrapped up, and this kind of goes along with unfortunately a lot of the stuff that's happening in the news with politics, and not just politics, like lots of different things where everybody needs their safe space or a shoulder to cry on and that kind of thing. And there is a time to be emotional, in one regard or another, but you need to develop thicker skin as an entrepreneur. And if you don't have it, you're not going to cut it as an entrepreneur. And failure is a requirement. And the amount of time it takes you to go from that failure to what's the next step, what's the actions that you need to take to overcome that, the longer that takes, the less success you're going to have. So the quicker you are able to get over something, the better the better off you're going to be. So if I go through a couple of specific examples of this, and I've talked to lots of different consulting and coaching clients with me over the years about this, but if we look back to like when we were 3 years old, we built some, a tower with these blocks, and some other kid would inevitably do what? They'd come over and smack it down, and we'd be like, crying, get all upset. And then we realized that, like, we got to either stand up for that person, or, we're going to push them, or we're going to knock over their tower, or we're going to tell them, hey, don't do that, or we're going to tell on them, tell a parent or whatever. And, but we still have that emotional reaction of like, wow, they knocked over my tower is like the first thing that occurs, right? And then we realize, like, as we go through life, stuff's going to happen that's worse than like the tower, getting knocked over. Somebody's going to screw you over in business for thousands of dollars. You're going to have your first customer refund. Man, I spent like hundreds of hours creating this product, and like I put my heart and soul and everything into it, and then they refunded it, and they made a comment that was just like, this is crap. I couldn't make it through the first chapter of your book, or I couldn't make it through like the first module of your course, and I'm not getting anything out of it. And then I'm just like, and you kind of get emotionally like just attached to a certain result, or very emotional over whatever that expected result is. And you should have some kind of an expected result is, I really hope it does this. This is what my goal is. This is what I'm aiming for. But the whole game in entrepreneurship is failing forward and then adjusting, pivoting what you're doing to kind of, you get that feedback and then you adjust. You get some more feedback and you adjust. And even if it takes you 100 tries, eventually you're going to get to that result, that desired result that you want, rather than, it's just another failure. And no matter what I do, I'm seeing failure after failure. It's like, no, like you obviously are missing, something. There's some gaps in your strategy, or you're doing something that maybe isn't even effective anymore. And it's just a question of trying lots of different things as quickly as possible and getting over that. And I kind of picture, somebody, like if you kind of look at those evolution pictures where it starts as like the ape, and then they slowly start walking upright, and then on the right side, it eventually there's a standing human being. It's like that, going from the Neanderthal to the human, kind of a diagram. I kind of see us as entrepreneurs like that, where, we're kind of like the chimp, or the gorilla or whatever, as we start out, like very primitive, and we don't really know what we're doing. And slowly we learn to walk upright, and we get over things, and we get to use our different skill sets, and we adjust our mindset, and we think more positively, and we learn to not let the small stuff affect us. And you learn a lot of things are small things, even if they don't seem like small things now. You need to grow your business big enough and develop that mindset over time, so that what might seem big now is really no big deal, a year to 5 years from now, or 3 minutes from now, depending upon what that thing is.
Absolutely. And Adam, I really think that your mindset is brilliant. I really do think that is exactly what entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs need to hear, right? It's not about doing it the first time and immediately becoming a billionaire. I just don't think I don't think it's realistic. I don't think it's going to happen. But like you said, you try, you fail, you calibrate, you try again, and you just keep repeating and repeating that process until you succeed. And so I'm really glad that you said that, okay? But I kind of want to move forward to talk about the future, right? Because we talked about your past, we talked about your present, we got a little bit inside your head as far as your mindset and your mentorship. But what do you think is the one biggest thing that you have to accomplish in your lifetime?
In terms of entrepreneurship specifically?
No. In terms of your life, in terms of Adam Holland, what do you have to do in order to, I guess, succeed in life?
Yeah, well, there's no bigger thing than legacy. It's not necessarily just what you do during your lifetime. It's all of us really want to live beyond our years in a way, and kind of be immortalized in a way. And it's not necessarily something to be, godlike, or it's not necessarily to have statues erected in your name and that kind of stuff. I heard one of my first, I guess, mentors, you could say, one of the first billionaires that I actually followed. He said that many people have different definitions of success, but he said, my definition is how many people are better off because you lived. And I feel that I've made quite an impact on my family, but also doing, just stuff like this, doing interviews. Like how many times do we have an opportunity to come on a podcast that's going to be heard by, if not hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. And then even if, a handful of people get something out of that changes their life, it motivates them a little bit more. They were going to quit, and then you said something that ultimately allowed them to persevere and get through whatever that struggle was. And now it's 5 or 10 years later, and maybe they didn't think that they were going to have a successful business, and now they just sold their business for tens of millions of dollars. Or maybe they didn't think that relationship was going to work out, and you saved the marriage, and now they've got kids, and those kids wouldn't be alive. Those are the things that, I've been very passionate about. And it's one of the reasons why I have a personal development brand now, is to get these kinds of messages out to people and to realize that, like, hey, whatever you're going through, you're not alone, and some chances are somebody else has gone through that, and chances are they've gone through it. Here's how they did it. And being able to share those kind of messages and leave that kind of a legacy, I mean, that's ultimately like what the end game is for me. That's what my ultimate success is, I guess you could say.
Wow, that's powerful, and I agree with you. The time that we've spent here, if we can even help one person, if we can make a positive impact on one person, then I'm happy, and that is time that I think is well spent. So I do just have 2 more questions for you, my man. I really do appreciate all your time. I know you're very busy. So I guess my first question is, if you could leave behind one piece of advice, what would that advice be?
Don't quit. Never, 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 never quit. Period. That is it.
That's awesome.
That is it. It's literally, because that's the end game, right? Like that's the deal right there. Because most people, it's just like, oh, I really wanted this, but this happened. But the tip was don't quit. Oh, okay. Well, what do I got to do next? like never quit. And what do I do next? Like that's the 2 biggest things I think in my business is, okay, well, we just did a huge product launch and we were expecting it to do, $100,000 and it only did $20,000. What do we do next? Or, man, we only expected this product launch to do $20,000 and we did $100,000. Great. Well, what do you do next? Like, what do you do next? Because there is no, oh, I reached the top of the mountain and I've arrived. There's always going to be, okay, well, what's the next mountain I got to climb? What's the next peak? How do I grow this more? How can I learn more? And then, and you can't quit. Like, you can't have the attitude of like, oh, I'm done at any point, whether you're having failure or success. It's a continuous thing. So just don't stop, never quit.
That's awesome. That's great. And so I guess just for one last question, just to kind of wrap things up, is there anything that is an important part of who you are that I did not ask you about today? In other words, what did I miss?
I think I semi touched on it when we were talking about like scheduling or the future and things like that, I kind of talked a little bit about how it's very important to do that grind and that hustle. But you need to have your goals and the vision for your future very much. It needs to be pliable because that vision is going to change over time. And once you reach things, you need to replace that vision and those goals as well. I have got several different whiteboards in my office, and one I use for like ongoing projects and to-do list kind of stuff, and the other one I use for dream boarding and setting goals and things like that. And I have a lot of stuff on there where I'm like, man, like I crossed out a lot of stuff in 2016, and I'm like, man, we're a month away from the next year here at the time we're doing this call, and I'm like, I really need to set up like what's going to be my first quarter goals, what's going to be my 6 months goals, and what am I going to have accomplished by the end? What's life going to look like at the end of this next year? And again, I'm like, man, I need to do that. So that's one thing. The other thing is like looking back, saying, okay, well, I did go to Hawaii this year. I did get a chance to travel overseas. I went to Fiji earlier this year as well. I took a 6-week vacation with my family over the summer when my kids were out of school. So like there's a lot of stuff that I accomplished that I wanted to do this year. Now I need to like make sure that I've got that vision moving forward. So even if you haven't hit your goals, you want to make sure that you have that vision. If you hit your goals, great, step up that vision and continue that. And I think, again, the biggest thing for me is my vision. Again, this is me personally. My vision has been for a very long time. I don't mind making like $250,000 to $500,000 a year. That's a sweet spot for me because I don't have to hire on a dozen employees and have a whole bunch of overhead and have all this extra stress and stuff. And it still allows me the freedom and the lifestyle that I want to live. So like before we got on the call, I've got a virtual reality headset called the HTC Vive hooked up to a gaming computer over there. And I was playing with a buddy of mine who lives in New York, playing on his virtual reality. So we're hanging out in VR, playing some video games for like an hour on a Monday afternoon. Like I don't typically get a lot of opportunities to do that if I wouldn't have an opportunity to do that if I was working in that cubicle all day. So for me, it's just as much about the, generating the revenue and building a big successful business as it is having the lifestyle and the freedom that I want to have. And
wow. You're absolutely
whatever your goal is, your actions and your dreams and your to-do list need to make sure that they're directed towards that vision. Because without that vision, without vision, men shall perish, or whatever is the quote. Without vision, you're literally not going anywhere. If you're not casting, I don't know if we're kind of like late on this call, but if you want to like Google, I did a video called Future Memories. I'm not sure if it's in my 4 Pillars of Success training. I know it's in that training, but there might be a free video somewhere on YouTube for that. But basically, most people sit down and they think of memories from their past, and they think of them very vividly. Where this is what I was out in the field and the grass smelled like this, and I was throwing a baseball back and forth, and I could smell the mitt, the baseball mitt, and the smile on my dad's face was this, or somebody said something to me that day and it really made me think about this, whatever. And we cast these very vivid memories from our past. Well, future memories is creating such a vivid memory happened yet. So it's not just like, oh, I want to put it on my vision board. Here's a picture of the house that I want. You need to go and check out those houses in real life and actually see yourself waking up in that bed, or playing basketball on that basketball court in your backyard, or going for a jog on a Tuesday morning or something like that. Really envisioning in your mind, tasting, smelling, hearing, seeing, experiencing all that life is going to have to offer when you've achieved that goal. And that's that fuel that's going to get you through the tough times or the failures and those frustrating, times that you might go through, or that you will go through in your business.
Wow. That really is powerful. So, Adam, I just want to, again, thank you so much for spending the time doing this interview and sharing your wisdom and experience. I really do appreciate it.
Hey, it's my pleasure, man. If people want to check out anything that I got going on, I've got AdamHollandMarketing.com is my agency website, or just go on Facebook and search for Adam Holland. And love to connect with you guys personally. And if you did get something out of this call, feel free to shoot me a personal message with whatever you got, and I'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So everybody, this is Adam Holland from Phoenix, Arizona, and this has been another Project Egg interview. Thank you very much.